I died at my husband's funeral, giving his eulogy, when his pregnant mistress walked through the church doors and announced that the twins she was carrying were his. My name is Claire Morrison, and I spent 15 years building a perfect marriage, raising 2 beautiful children, and believing in the man I loved. I died at 40, standing at a podium in front of everyone we knew, watching a 25-year-old woman with a swollen belly destroy every memory I had of my husband. I'm sorry to interrupt, she said, her voice carrying across the silent church. But David would have wanted his children to be here. All of them. She placed her hand on her pregnant stomach, and the room erupted. My children, Emma, 13, and Lucas, 10, stared at the woman in confusion. My mother-in-law screamed. My best friend Rachel tried to rush toward me, but I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. David had been dead for 3 days. Sudden heart attack at 42. No warning. One moment he was alive, the next he was gone. And now this woman was claiming she was carrying his twins. Who are you? I heard myself ask. Jessica. Jessica Morrison. She smiled sadly. We got married 6 months ago. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but David wanted me to wait until after the funeral to tell you. Married. He'd married her. While married to me. The room spun. I felt pain in my chest, sharp, crushing. I reached for the podium but missed. The last thing I saw before everything went black was Jessica being helped into the front pew by David's brother, who I'd thought was my friend. The last thing I heard was my daughter Emma screaming, "Mom!" Then nothing. When I opened my eyes again, I was sitting across from David at our favorite restaurant, wearing the red dress I'd bought for our 10th wedding anniversary. I was 35 again, exactly 5 years younger, on the night that would change everything. Claire? Are you okay? David asked, reaching across the table to touch my hand. I jerked away instinctively, my heart pounding. This was the anniversary dinner. I remembered it from my previous timeline. The night David had been distant and distracted, checking his phone constantly, barely touching his food. The night I would later learn that he'd first kissed Jessica. She'd been his physical therapist after a minor car accident. 20 years old, sweet, attentive. He'd told me later, much later, when I discovered credit card charges and confronted him, that he'd never meant for it to happen. That she'd made him feel young again. That I'd been so focused on the kids that I'd stopped seeing him. All lies I knew now. All manipulation to make his betrayal my fault. I'm fine, I said, studying his face. He looked younger, healthier. The stress lines that would appear over the next 5 years weren't there yet. He looked like the man I'd fallen in love with at 22. But I knew what he would become. You seem distracted, David said, and I almost laughed at the irony. In my original timeline, I'd said those exact words to him. Just thinking about the kids, I said. Emma's been having trouble at school. This was true. Emma was 8 years old, struggling with mean girls in her class. In my first timeline, I'd handled it alone because David had been too busy with work. Too busy with Jessica. She'll be fine, David said dismissively. Kids are resilient. She's being bullied, David. That's not something kids just bounce back from. You're being dramatic. Every kid deals with some teasing. I stared at him, seeing clearly for the first time how little he'd valued my concerns. How easily he dismissed anything related to the children because he assumed I'd handle it. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. Happy anniversary. Hope David spoils you tonight. You deserve it. I looked at the text and felt tears prick my eyes. Rachel, who would stand by me through David's death. Rachel, who would help me plan the funeral. Rachel, who would hold me when I discovered he'd had a whole secret life. Rachel, who had known about Jessica for months and never told me. I'd found that out 3 days before David died, when I'd overheard her on the phone with her husband. I can't tell Claire about the girl. It would destroy her. Better she doesn't know. Claire. David's voice brought me back. You're crying. What's wrong? Nothing. Just hormones. Are you pregnant? The hope in his voice made me sick. No, we weren't trying for a third child. But in 6 months Jessica would be. With twins that may or may not have been his. No. I'm not pregnant. David's face fell and he looked away. Right. Of course not. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Forget it. No, what did you mean by that? David sighed. It's just, We haven't been intimate in months, Claire. We barely talk anymore except about the kids and bills. I feel more like your roommate than your husband. I wanted to scream that in the next 5 years he'd barely touch me at all. That he'd come home late every night, claiming overtime. That he'd miss Emma's dance recitals and Lucas's soccer games because he was working. But I knew the truth now. He'd been with her. Maybe we should try counseling, I said instead. David looked surprised. Counseling? We don't need counseling. We just need to reconnect. Remember who we were before the kids. Who were we? Young. Free. Fun. He reached for my hand again. I missed that, Claire. The one who would stay out all night with me. Who would be spontaneous. Who wanted me. I still want you. I'm just tired, David. I work full-time and take care of 2 kids and manage the house. I'm exhausted. I work too. You work. I work and then come home to a second shift of cooking, cleaning, homework, bedtime routines. You work and then relax. David's jaw tightened. Is this what tonight is going to be? Complaining about division of labor. I'm not complaining. I'm explaining why I'm tired. Well, Jessica never seems tired. The words hung in the air. I froze. Who's Jessica? David's face went white. My physical therapist. I mentioned her. No, you didn't. I did. After the accident. She's been helping with my shoulder. Your accident was 3 months ago. You're still seeing her. The shoulder's been bothering me. She recommended continued treatment. Lie. I could see it in his eyes, in the way he wouldn't quite meet my gaze. How old is Jessica? I don't know. 20 maybe? Why does it matter? It matters because you just compared me to her. Your 20-year-old physical therapist. I didn't. That's not what I meant. What did you mean, David? He stood up abruptly. I need some air. We're in a restaurant. Then I'll take a walk. I'll be back. He left and I sat alone at our anniversary table, knowing exactly where he was going. He was calling Jessica, telling her about our fight, seeking comfort from the young woman who made him feel wanted. This was the night it started. Or maybe it had started weeks ago, and this was just the night it became real. Either way, I had a decision to make. In my previous timeline, I'd spent the rest of the evening crying, wondering what I'd done wrong. I'd gone home and tried harder, dressed nicer, initiated more, took interest in his hobbies. I'd bent myself into shapes trying to be the woman he wanted. And he'd still chosen her. This time I had knowledge. I knew where this path led. I knew about Jessica's pregnancy. I knew about David's secret marriage. I knew about his death and the humiliation at his funeral. But I also knew something else. David would die in 5 years. Heart attack, sudden, no warning. Did I try to prevent the affair? Try to save a marriage to a man who would betray me? Or did I let it play out, knowing it would end anyway? Or did I do something I'd never had the courage to do the first time? Leave? When David came back 20 minutes later, he seemed calmer. I'm sorry, he said, sitting down. I shouldn't have said that about Jessica. That was inappropriate. Yes, it was. I've just been stressed. Work has been crazy and I feel like we're drifting apart. We are drifting apart. Because you're pulling away. I'm not. You are. And I think we both know why. David's face went carefully blank. What are you implying? I'm not implying anything. I'm saying that if you're unhappy in this marriage, we need to address it honestly. Not through passive-aggressive comments about 20-year-olds. I'm not unhappy. I'm just, I don't know. Restless. Restless enough to have an affair? The question was out before I could stop it. David's eyes widened. What? No. Claire, I would never. Wouldn't you? No. How could you even suggest that? I looked at him, this man I'd loved for 13 years, and saw the lie forming on his lips. Saw him preparing to gaslight me, to make me feel crazy for even questioning him. If you're going to cheat on me, David, at least have the decency to be honest about it. I'm not cheating on you. Jesus, Claire, where is this coming from? Intuition. Well, your intuition is wrong. I've never been unfaithful to you. Not once. He looked so sincere. So offended. And in this timeline, maybe it was technically true. Maybe he hadn't crossed the physical line yet. But I knew he would. Okay, I said simply. Okay. I believe you. Another lie. But necessary. David relaxed slightly. Good. Because I love you. I love our family. I would never do anything to jeopardize that. Liar. We finished dinner in tense silence. That night, David tried to initiate intimacy, probably to prove his commitment. I let him because I needed time to think. But as I lay awake afterward, listening to him snore beside me, I made my decision. I wasn't going to try to save this marriage. I wasn't going to compete with Jessica. I wasn't going to spend 5 years wondering if I was enough. I was going to prepare. I was going to protect myself and my children from the fallout I knew was coming. And when David died, I was going to make sure Jessica didn't get a penny. The next morning, I did something I'd never done in my original timeline. I hired a private investigator. I think my husband is having an affair, I told the sharp-eyed woman across from me. I need proof. How long do you think it's been going on? It's just starting. Maybe not even physical yet. But it will be. The investigator, Patricia, raised an eyebrow. You sound very certain. I am. Do you know who the other woman is? Jessica Morrison. His physical therapist. Patricia wrote down the name. I'll start surveillance today. Give me 2 weeks. Take 4. I want everything. Photos, timestamps, locations. I want proof that will hold up in divorce court. You're already thinking divorce? I'm thinking protection. Patricia nodded. Smart woman. Most of my clients wait until they're destroyed before they start protecting themselves. I'd been destroyed once. Never again. Over the next month, I made other preparations. I opened a bank account in my name only. I started documenting every financial transaction. I gathered every important document. Mortgage papers, car titles, insurance policies, bank statements. I also did something that would seem strange to anyone else. I scheduled David for a full medical workup. Why? He asked when I told him about the appointment. Because you're 40 now. It's time for a comprehensive checkup. Besides, with your family history of heart disease, we should be monitoring you. This was true. David's father had died of a heart attack at 50. In my original timeline, David had refused to see doctors, claiming he felt fine. He'd felt fine right up until he collapsed. I don't have time for that, David protested. Make time. For the kids, if not for me. They need their father. Something in my voice must have struck him because he agreed. 2 weeks later, Patricia called me. I have what you need, she said. We met at a coffee shop far from my neighborhood. She handed me a manila envelope. He's been seeing her 3 times a week, Patricia said. Always at her apartment. He tells you he's working late, but he leaves the office at 5 and goes straight to her place. Stays until about 10, then comes home. I opened the envelope. Photos of David entering a building, leaving hours later. Photos of him kissing Jessica in her doorway. Photos of them at restaurants, his hand on her lower back. There's more, Patricia said quietly. She's pregnant. My blood ran cold. What? I saw her at a clinic. She's about 8 weeks along. 8 weeks. That meant. My mind did the math. That meant she'd gotten pregnant around our anniversary, possibly even before. Are you sure? I have photos of her leaving the clinic with prenatal vitamins. I felt sick. In my original timeline, I hadn't known about the pregnancy until much later. Hadn't known about the twins until David's funeral. But this changed things. Jessica was pregnant now, 5 years earlier than she should be. Had something I'd done changed the timeline? Or had this always been the truth and I'd just never known? There's something else, Patricia said. I did some research on Jessica Morrison. That's not her real name. What? Her birth name is Jessica Chun. She changed it legally 6 months ago. To Morrison? To David's last name. Yes. Before they were in a relationship, as far as I can prove. My stomach dropped. She was planning this. It looks that way. I thought about the funeral, about Jessica claiming to be David's wife. Had that been true? Had he actually married her? Can you find out if they're married? I'll check marriage records. 3 days later, Patricia called back. No marriage record. At least not yet. Yet. The word hung in the air. I looked at the photos spread across my dining room table. Evidence of betrayal, evidence of planning, evidence that the woman my husband was sleeping with had taken his name before they were even together. This wasn't a simple affair. This was something calculated. I needed to know more. That night I did something reckless. I drove to Jessica's apartment building and waited. At 9:47 p.m., David's car pulled up. I watched him get out, check his phone and head inside. I waited 10 minutes then followed. I knocked on Jessica's door. When she opened it, still smiling from whatever David had just said, her face went white. "Mrs. Morrison," she said. "Actually, I'm Mrs. Morrison. You're just Jessica. May I come in?" David appeared behind her. "Claire? What are you doing here?" "Having a conversation with my husband's mistress. Are you going to invite me in? Or should we do this in the hallway?" Jessica stepped aside. I walked into a small but nicely decorated apartment. Photos on the walls, and several of them included David. "How long?" I asked, turning to face them both. David opened his mouth, but I held up my hand. "Don't lie. I have a private investigator. I know about the 3 nights a week. I know about the restaurants. I know about the prenatal vitamins. So please just tell me." "How long?" David's face crumbled. "Claire, I can explain." "How long?" 6 months, Jessica said quietly. "We've been together for 6 months. 6 months. Which meant it had started before our anniversary, before the dinner where he'd complained about me being tired. And the pregnancy?" Jessica's hand moved to her stomach protectively. 8 weeks. "Is it his?" "Of course it's his. Of course. You changed your name to Morrison 6 months before you even met David. You want me to believe this is all coincidence?" Jessica's eyes widened. "I don't know what you're talking about." Jessica Chun. Born March 15, 1995. Name legally changed to Jessica Morrison on June 3 of this year. 6 months ago. Before you ever met my husband. David turned to Jessica. "You changed your name to my last name before we met?" It's not what it sounds like." "What is it then?" I asked. "Because it sounds like you targeted my husband deliberately." "I didn't target anyone. I wanted a fresh start. Morrison is my mother's maiden name." "Prove it." "I don't have to prove anything to you. You're carrying my husband's child and using my family name. You absolutely have to prove it." David looked between us, confusion and guilt warring on his face. "Jessica, is this true? Did you target me?" "No. I fell in love with you naturally. The name thing is just a coincidence." "A coincidence," I repeated. "You're a 20-year-old physical therapist who just happened to change her name to match my 40-year-old husband, just happened to get assigned to his case, just happened to seduce him, and just happened to get pregnant within months. That's a lot of coincidences." Jessica's face hardened. "He came to me. He pursued me. I was just trying to do my job." "Liar," I said flatly. "I've seen the texts. The ones where you sent him photos. The ones where you asked him to leave his wife. The ones where you called me a bitch who didn't appreciate him." David's face went white. "Claire, how did you?" "I pay for the phone plan, David. I have access to everything. This was a bluff. I didn't actually have his texts yet. But I knew they existed. I remembered finding them in my original timeline, months after they'd already destroyed evidence." Jessica's silence confirmed I was right. "Get out," she said suddenly. "This is my home. Get out." "Gladly. But David, you need to make a choice. Right now. Come home with me and end this, or stay here and I file for divorce tomorrow." David looked at Jessica, at her hand on her stomach, at the home they'd apparently been building together. Then he looked at me. "Claire, please. Can we talk about this privately?" "No. Choose. Now. I can't just abandon her. She's pregnant. With a child that might not even be yours." "What?" Jessica gasped. "How dare you? Paternity test. If you're so sure, prove it." "I don't have to prove anything." "David, are you going to let her talk to me like this?" David looked at Jessica with something like pity. "Maybe she's right. Maybe we should do a paternity test." "You don't trust me?" "I didn't even know about the name change." "What else haven't you told me?" "I've told you everything. I love you. You love what I represent," I said. "Stability. money, respectability. But you don't love him. If you did, you wouldn't have lied about your name. Jessica's face twisted with rage. You don't know anything about me. I know you're a child playing grown-up games. I know you saw a vulnerable man and decided to take him from his family. I know you got pregnant to trap him. I turned to David. Last chance. Come home or I'm done. David looked at Jessica one more time, then followed me to the door. David! Jessica cried. Please. Don't leave me. I'll call you, he said weakly. In the car, David sat in silence while I drove. When we pulled into our driveway, he finally spoke. How did you know? About all of it. I thought about telling him the truth, about dying at his funeral, about the twins Jessica would claim were his, about coming back in time. Instead, I said, I've always known. I just hoped I was wrong. I'm sorry. Are you? Or are you just sorry you got caught? I'm sorry for all of it. For hurting you. For betraying our family. But not for being with her. Silence. If she is pregnant with your child, I said carefully, what are you going to do? I don't know. Because I'm not raising another woman's child, David. If that baby is yours, you'll support it financially, but I won't play happy family with your mistress. I wouldn't ask you to. But you'd want to be in the child's life. If it's mine, yes. I nodded. I'd expected this. Then we need rules. Paternity tests first. If it's yours, you pay child support, but Jessica stays away from me and our children. You see the baby on your time, not mine. And this affair ends completely. It's already over. Is it? Because you looked at her like you wanted to stay. David's hands clenched. I'm here, aren't I? Physically. But where's your heart? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. That night, I lay in bed beside my husband and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just cold acceptance. He would probably go back to her. The pregnancy would pull him in. He'd feel obligated, responsible. And I would let him go. Because I'd already lived through trying to hold on to a man who didn't want to be kept. I knew how that story ended. This time I was writing a different ending. The next day I met with a divorce attorney. I want everything prepared, I told her. Custody agreements, asset division, spousal support calculations. I want to be ready to file at any moment. The attorney, Margaret, was in her 50s and had seen everything. Are you sure you want a divorce? I'm sure I want to be prepared for one. Does he know you're here? No. And I'd like to keep it that way until I'm ready. Margaret nodded. Smart. Most women wait until they're emotionally destroyed before they start protecting themselves financially. I've already been destroyed once, I said. And it was true even if she didn't understand the timeline. Over the next week, David tried. He came home on time. He was attentive with the kids. He apologized repeatedly. But he also checked his phone constantly. And I knew he was texting Jessica. She wants to talk, he admitted one night. About the pregnancy. So talk to her. You're okay with that? I'm okay with you handling your responsibilities. What I'm not okay with is you lying to me about it. He looked relieved. Thank you for being reasonable about this. Reasonable. As if there was anything reasonable about this situation. 2 weeks after my confrontation with Jessica, David came home looking shaken. She lost the baby, he said quietly. I felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief that I wouldn't have to watch my husband father another woman's child. Sadness for any life lost. Suspicion about the timing. I'm sorry, I said, because it seemed like the thing to say. She's devastated. I need to go see her. Do you? Claire, she just lost our baby. If it was your baby. It was. You never did the paternity test. David's jaw tightened. She was 8 weeks pregnant. It was mine. If you say so. Why are you being so cold about this? Because I'm trying to protect myself, David. Because I know that if I let myself feel too much, I'll fall apart. And I can't afford to fall apart because I have 2 children who need me to be strong. David stared at me like I was a stranger. When did you become so hard? When you started fucking a 20-year-old. He flinched at the crude language. Good. I'm going to see Jessica, he said. She needs support. Then go. But David. I waited until he looked at me. If you sleep with her, don't bother coming home. I'm not going to. I mean it. You can comfort her. You can be there for her. But if you touch her, we're done. He left without another word. He came home at 3 a.m. I was still awake, lying in bed staring at the ceiling. Did you sleep with her? I asked when he came into the bedroom. No. Did you want to? Silence. Get out. Claire. Get out of this room. Sleep on the couch. I can't look at you right now. He left and I finally let myself cry. Not for him, not for our marriage, but for the time I'd wasted. In both timelines. The next morning I told David we needed to separate. What? No. Claire, we can work through this. I don't want to work through it. I want space. I want you to figure out what you actually want instead of stringing me along while you figure it out. I want you. I want our family. But you also want her. I don't. David, you went to comfort your mistress at 3 a.m. and came home looking guilty. You wanted to sleep with her. Maybe you did and you're lying about it. Either way, you're not fully committed to this marriage. And I'm done pretending that trying harder will fix that. Where would I even go? I don't care. Oh, tell Jessica's place, your brothers. Just not here. The kids. We'll be fine. We'll tell them you're working on a big project and need to stay closer to the office. When they're older, they'll understand the real reason. David looked at me with something like fear. You're really doing this. I'm really doing this. He packed a bag and left that afternoon. Emma and Lucas were confused but accepted the work excuse. They were used to David being absent. That night, alone in my bed for the first time in 13 years, I felt something unexpected: relief. I was free. Not divorced yet, not officially separated, but free from the constant anxiety of wondering if today would be the day I'd discover another betrayal. I already knew all the betrayals. I'd lived through them once. This time I was choosing when and how they'd affect me. The separation lasted 3 months. David called every day wanting to talk. I kept conversations brief and focused on the children. Jessica, I learned through Patricia, who I kept on retainer, was devastated by David's absence. She'd apparently expected him to leave me and move in with her after the miscarriage. But David didn't move in with her. He got an apartment and, according to Patricia, spent most of his time there alone. He's not seeing anyone else, Patricia told me. No Jessica, no other women. Just work in his apartment. Good for him, I said and meant it. At the 3-month mark, David asked to meet for coffee. I've been in therapy, he said. Individual and starting couples counseling soon. I want to work on myself. I want to understand why I sabotaged the best thing in my life. And what has therapy taught you? That I was selfish. That I wanted to feel young and desired again. That I used Jessica to avoid dealing with my own fears about aging and mortality. Mortality, I repeated. The word hung heavy between us. David had no idea he had less than 4 years left. I'm 40, Claire. My dad died at 50. I've been having panic attacks about dying young, leaving you and the kids. Instead of talking to you about it, I tried to prove I was still young and vital by seducing a 20-year-old. It was more self-awareness than I'd expected. Maybe therapy was actually working. So what do you want from me? I asked. A chance. Not to fix everything immediately, but to try. To rebuild trust slowly. To be the husband and father I should have been all along. I thought about my 2 timelines. In the first, I'd never known about Jessica until it was too late. I trusted blindly until his death. In this timeline, I knew everything. I could make an informed choice. I need to tell you something, I said. And you're going to think I'm crazy. Try me. So I told him. About dying at his funeral. About Jessica's pregnancy announcement. About the twins she'd claimed were his. About being reborn at our anniversary dinner. David listened without interrupting. His face unreadable. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. That's quite a story, he said finally. I know how it sounds. No, I mean, it explains a lot. How you knew about Jessica before you should have. How you knew about the name change. How you've been so focused on protecting yourself financially. You believe me? I believe something happened that gave you insight you shouldn't have had. Whether it was actual time travel or some kind of prophetic dream or just incredible intuition, I believe that you experienced something real. I felt tears prick my eyes. I hadn't expected to be believed. In this other timeline, David asked carefully, how did I die? Heart attack. 4 years from now. You were 42. His face went white. My dad's age. Yes. Was I happy? Before I died. I thought about the man I discovered in my original timeline, stressed, distant, financially strained from supporting 2 families. No, I said honestly. You weren't. And you? Were you happy? I was surviving. Which is different. David reached across the table and took my hand. I don't want either of us to just survive. I want us to live. Really live. However many years I have left. That's what I want too. But David, I need you to understand something. I'm not the woman I was. I won't ignore my instincts to keep peace. I won't shrink myself to make you comfortable. I won't compete with other women for your attention. I don't want you to. You say that now. But when I challenge you, when I disagree with you, when I put myself first, will you still want me then? Yes. Because that's the woman I fell in love with. The strong, opinionated woman who called me on my bullshit. Somewhere along the way you stopped doing that. Or I stopped listening. Either way we lost something. I want it back. It won't be easy. I know. And I'm still keeping the separate bank account and the divorce papers ready. I understand. And if you even think about cheating again, I'm gone. No second chances. No explanations. Just gone. I know. And I won't. I swear to you, Claire, I won't. I looked at my husband and saw genuine remorse, genuine fear of loss, genuine desire to change. But I also knew how this story could end. I knew about the heart attack that would take him in 4 years. The question was, did I want to spend those 4 years trying to rebuild what we'd lost? Or did I want to spend them preparing for inevitable loss? I need time, I said. I'm not saying no. But I'm not saying yes either. How much time? As much as I need. David nodded. Okay. I'll wait. We separated again, but this time it felt different. Less like an ending and more like a pause. I threw myself into work, got a promotion, started saving aggressively. I also did something I'd never done before. I took Emma and Lucas to therapy. Your father and I are working through some difficulties, I told the therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Sarah. I want to make sure the kids have support regardless of what happens with our marriage. Emma, now 13, was old enough to sense the tension. Are you getting divorced? I don't know yet, I said honestly. But I want you to know that whatever happens, it's not your fault. Sometimes adults make mistakes. Sometimes they can fix them. Sometimes they can't. Lucas, 10, asked the question that broke my heart. Do you still love Dad? Did I? I loved the man he'd been. I hated the man he'd become. I was cautiously hopeful about the man he was trying to be. Yes, I said. But love isn't always enough. What else is there? Lucas asked. Trust. Respect. Partnership. Your father and I are trying to figure out if we can rebuild those things. 6 months into our separation, David had a health scare. Chest pains that sent him to the emergency room. Not a heart attack, the doctor said. Anxiety. But we should run more tests. With your family history, we need to be cautious. They ran every test imaginable. And they found it. A blockage in one of David's arteries. Not enough to cause a heart attack yet, but significant. You need a stent, the cardiologist said. It's a minimally invasive procedure. We can do it next week. If we don't address this now, you're at serious risk for a heart attack within the next few years. I sat in the hospital room with David, processing this information. In my original timeline, he'd never had this test. He'd refused medical care until it was too late. This time, my insistence on that checkup had saved his life. Claire, David said when the doctor left, if something happens to me, nothing's going to happen. You're getting the procedure. But if it does, I need you to know that I've changed my will. Everything goes to you and the kids. Jessica gets nothing. Jessica? Why would Jessica get anything? David looked uncomfortable. In my original will from before, I'd left her a trust fund. I was going to tell you about it after things were more settled. My blood ran cold. When did you set up this trust? Last year. when she told me she was pregnant. And you never mentioned it? I was going to change it after the miscarriage, but I never got around to it. But I changed it last week. I promise. Let me see the paperwork. David pulled out his phone and showed me emails from his attorney. Sure enough, a new will dated 1 week ago left everything to me and the children. Why did you change it now? I asked. Because I realized I almost lost everything that mattered. And if I die, I want to make sure you and the kids are taken care of. Not her. I thought about my original timeline. About Jessica showing up at David's funeral, claiming to be his wife, claiming her unborn twins were his heirs. David, I need to ask you something. And I need you to be completely honest. Okay. Did you marry Jessica? His eyes widened. What? No. Why would you think that? In the other timeline, at your funeral, she claimed to be Jessica Morrison, your wife. She said you'd married her 6 months before you died. David's face went white. I never married her. I swear. The only person I've ever married is you. But she changed her name to Morrison. I know. And I asked her about it. She said it was her mother's maiden name. Did you ever verify that? No. I trusted her. Call her, I said suddenly. What? Call Jessica right now. Ask her directly if she ever told people you were married. Claire, I haven't spoken to her in 6 months. Call her. Now. David pulled out his phone and dialed. It rang 4 times before she answered. David. Her voice was hopeful, excited. Jessica, I need to ask you something. Did you ever tell anyone we were married? Silence on the other end. Jessica, why are you asking me this? Just answer the question. I might have told a few people that we were engaged. Engaged? We were never engaged. I know, but when people asked about us, it was easier to say we were engaged than to explain that you were married to someone else. David's jaw clenched. That's not the same thing. Did you tell people we were married? Another long pause. I wanted it to be true. That's not an answer. Fine. Yes, okay. I told some people we were married. After the baby. I thought if I told people we were married, you'd feel obligated to actually marry me. To make it real. David looked at me, his face full of horror. Do you understand how insane that is? I'm already married. You were setting me up for a bigamy charge. I wasn't trying to. I just wanted us to be together. By lying? By pretending to be my wife when you weren't. You said you loved me. I said a lot of things I shouldn't have said. But I never said I'd marry you while I was married to someone else. But you were going to leave her. You said. I never said that. I never promised you anything. Jessica started crying. You're doing this because of her. She's turned you against me. No, Jessica. I turned myself against you when I realized you've been manipulating me from the start. The name change, the pregnancy, the lies about being married. All of it. I love you. You love the idea of me. But that's not enough. And I'm done. Please don't contact me again. He hung up before she could respond. We sat in silence for a moment. I'm sorry, David said finally. I'm sorry I ever got involved with her. I'm sorry I put you through this. Did you love her? He thought about it. I thought I did. Or maybe I just loved feeling wanted. Feeling young. Feeling like I mattered to someone who didn't see me as just a provider or a father. I saw you as more than that. Did you? Or did you see me as your partner in managing the household? The person who helped with homework and paid bills? The question struck deep because it was true. Somewhere in the years of raising kids and managing careers, we'd stopped seeing each other as people. We'd become roles. Mother, father, provider, caretaker. I saw you, I said. But maybe not all of you. I didn't let you see all of me. I was scared of getting older, scared of dying like my dad, scared of being irrelevant. Instead of talking to you about it, I tried to prove I was still desirable by seducing a girl barely out of her teens. She wasn't that innocent. No, she wasn't. But I was the married one. I was the one who had something to lose. The responsibility is mine. The surgery went well. David got his stent, started cardiac rehab, and began taking his health seriously for the first time in years. And slowly, carefully, we started rebuilding. Not the marriage we'd had before. That marriage was dead. buried in the rubble of betrayal and neglect. This was something new. Something more honest. We went to couples therapy. We had uncomfortable conversations. We set boundaries and expectations. We learned to communicate without assuming the other person could read our minds. It wasn't perfect. There were setbacks and arguments and moments when I wondered if I was making a mistake. But it was real. 1 year after our separation, David moved back home. Ground rules, I said. We split household duties equally. You handle your own doctor appointments. You are an active, present father, not just someone who lives here. And if you ever even think about cheating again, I'm gone and I'm taking everything. Agreed. I'm serious, David. I won't survive another betrayal. This is your last chance. I know. And I won't waste it. Emma and Lucas were happy to have their father home, though Emma, now 14, made her feelings clear. If you hurt Mom again, I'll never forgive you, she told David. I know, he said. I won't. Life settled into a new normal. David worked from home more, spending time with the kids. We had weekly date nights where we actually talked. We went to therapy every month to maintain progress. And for the first time in either timeline, I felt like I was in a partnership rather than a performance. But I never forgot what I knew. I never forgot that in my original timeline, David died at 42. He was now 41. I watched him obsessively for signs of illness, made sure he took his medications, monitored his diet and exercise, dragged him to every cardiac checkup. You're being paranoid, he said after one particularly thorough examination. I'm being careful. You're a heart attack risk. The doctors said the stent is working perfectly. I'm healthier now than I was before. Good. Let's keep it that way. On David's 42nd birthday, I threw him a party. Friends, family, the kids. A celebration of life. All day I waited for the heart attack. Waited for him to collapse. Waited for my nightmare to repeat. But it didn't. He made it through the day, the week, the month, the year. 43. 44. 45. Each birthday was a victory. Each year was borrowed time I'd stolen from fate through vigilance and early intervention. The heart attack that had killed him in my original timeline never came. You saved my life, David told me on our 20th anniversary. Literally. The doctor said if we hadn't caught that blockage when we did, I would have had a massive heart attack within a year. So you were supposed to die at 43, I said. But I didn't. Because you pushed me to get that checkup. Because you wouldn't let me ignore my health. And because you actually listened this time. We were 55 now. The kids were grown, Emma in medical school, Lucas in college. Our marriage had survived infidelity, separation, health scares, and the weight of knowledge from another timeline. It wasn't perfect. We still argued. We still had to work at it. But we were both still here. One afternoon, I received a Facebook message from a name I hadn't seen in years. Jessica Morrison. I heard David had a birthday party. Happy 55th to him. I'm sure you're both very happy with your perfect life. I just wanted you to know that I'm happy too. I'm married now to a wonderful man who actually values me. We have 2 beautiful children, twins actually. Girls. I named them after my mother and grandmother. I thought you'd like to know that I moved on. That I'm not the villain you made me out to be. I was young and stupid and in love with a man who lied to me as much as he lied to you. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me someday. But if you can't, I understand. I just needed you to know I'm sorry. For all of it. Jessica. I stared at the message for a long time. Twins. She'd had twins after all, just not with David. Had fate course corrected? Or was this just coincidence? I showed the message to David. What do you want me to say to her? I asked. What do you want to say? I thought about it. About the Jessica from my original timeline who destroyed me at David's funeral. About the Jessica from this timeline who'd been manipulative and calculating but ultimately young and lost. I want to say that I forgive her. Not because she deserves it, but because I'm tired of carrying anger. Then say that. So I wrote back. I'm glad you're happy. I'm glad you found someone who values you. I'm glad you have your daughters. I don't know if I forgive you, but I've made peace with what happened. I hope you have too. Claire. She responded immediately. Thank you. That's more than I expected. I hope you and David have many more years together. I closed the message and deleted the conversation. That chapter was done. David and I had 15 more good years. Years of travel, grandchildren, quiet mornings and loud family dinners. Years of partnership and friendship and love that had been tested and survived. He died at 70, peacefully in his sleep, with me beside him. There was no dramatic funeral revelation. No pregnant mistress showing up. No secret life uncovered. Just a man who'd made mistakes, learned from them, and spent the rest of his life trying to be better. At his funeral, I gave the eulogy I'd never gotten to give in my original timeline. David was not a perfect man, I said to the gathered crowd. He made mistakes. He hurt people. He struggled with fear and vanity and mortality. But he was also brave enough to face those flaws. To do the hard work of change. To become the man his family needed him to be. I looked at Emma and Lucas, both in their 40s now with children of their own. He gave me 35 years of marriage. Not all of them were good. But enough of them were. And in the end, that's what mattered. Not the mistakes, but what we built after we acknowledged them. After the funeral, Emma pulled me aside. Mom, I need to ask you something. And I need you to be honest. Okay. Did Dad cheat on you? I looked at my daughter, brilliant and perceptive, and saw no point in lying. Yes. Once. A long time ago. I thought so. I was 13 when you separated. I remember. I didn't think you knew. I'm not stupid, Mom. I figured it out. She paused. Why did you take him back? Because he did the work to change. Because he showed me over years that he'd learned from his mistake. Because I decided that one mistake didn't have to define the rest of our lives. Do you regret it? Taking him back. I thought about my 2 timelines. The one where I'd died at 40, never knowing the full truth. The one where I'd lived to 75 with full knowledge and full choice. No, I said. I don't regret it. I made an informed decision and I never stopped protecting myself. But I also chose to believe in the possibility of change. And he proved me right. I'm not sure I could be that forgiving. You don't have to be. Everyone's path is different. I'm just glad I chose the path that gave me more time with him. Emma hugged me. I'm glad you had that time too. I lived another 5 years after David's death. 5 years of being a grandmother, a friend, a woman who'd survived betrayal and heartbreak and came out stronger. On my 80th birthday, surrounded by my children and grandchildren, I thought about both my lives. In the first, I died at 40, destroyed by secrets and lies. In the second, I'd lived to 80, armed with knowledge and determination. The difference wasn't just the extra years. It was the quality of those years. The agency. The choice. I died once believing love meant sacrifice. I'd lived believing love meant boundaries. And that made all the difference. That night I had a dream. I was standing at David's funeral again, the one from my original timeline. Jessica was there with her pregnant belly, announcing her twins. But this time I didn't have a heart attack. This time I smiled. Those aren't his children, I said calmly. And you know it. Jessica's face went white. How did you? Because I know everything, Jessica. I've lived this moment before. And this time I chose differently. I woke up peacefully, my heart calm. The next morning I called Emma. I want to tell you a story, I said. About dying and coming back. About getting a second chance. About choosing differently. Mom, are you feeling okay? I'm feeling perfect. But I'm old, Emma. And before I die, I want you to know the truth. All of it. So I told her. About the funeral. About the rebirth. About the choices I'd made to change our timeline. Emma listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet. Do you believe me? I asked. I believe that something happened that changed you. Whether it was literal time travel or some kind of prophetic vision or just your intuition screaming at you to protect yourself, I believe it was real to you. That's the same thing your father said. He knew. I told him. He believed me too. Emma was quiet for a moment. Thank you for telling me. And thank you for choosing differently. Whatever happened, whatever you experienced, it gave me more years with Dad. It gave me a father who was present and trying instead of one who was absent and lying. You're welcome. Do you think it will happen again? Another rebirth? I don't know. But if it does, I'll be ready. What would you do differently? I thought about that. Nothing. I made the choices I could live with. I protected myself and my children. I gave your father a chance to change and he took it. If I had it to do over, I wouldn't change a thing. Not even the affair? Not even that. Because the affair forced us to face what was broken. Without it, we might have drifted apart slowly, dying of neglect instead of being shocked into action. Emma smiled. You're very wise, Mom. I'm very old. There's a difference. 3 months later, I died peacefully in my sleep, surrounded by the family I'd fought to protect. At my funeral, Emma gave the eulogy. My mother was the strongest person I've ever known, she said. She survived betrayal. She rebuilt her life. She set boundaries and demanded respect. She showed me that love isn't about accepting everything. It's about deciding what you'll accept and standing firm on that decision. She also taught me that everyone deserves a second chance, but nobody deserves a third. That forgiveness is possible, but it's not required. That you can make peace with the past without forgetting the lessons it taught you. Most importantly, she showed me that you're never powerless. Even when you feel trapped by circumstances, by other people's choices, by fate itself, you always have the power to choose how you respond. My mother chose strength. She chose boundaries. She chose herself. And in doing so, she chose the life she wanted instead of the life that was happening to her. I hope I can be half as brave. After my funeral, Emma went through my belongings and found a journal I'd kept. The one where I'd written about my original timeline, about dying at David's funeral, about everything that had happened in the life I'd lived before. She read it cover to cover, crying and laughing and gasping at the revelations. Then she wrote her own entry. Mom, I read your journal. I believe you. Every word. And I want you to know that you didn't just save Dad's life by catching that heart blockage. You saved all of our lives by choosing differently. In the timeline you described, you died at 40. Dad died at 42. Lucas and I would have been teenagers, probably traumatized by losing both parents so young, definitely fighting over whatever inheritance Jessica tried to claim. But in this timeline, we got 55 years with you. 35 years with Dad. We got to grow up in a stable home with parents who loved each other and were present. We got the gift of your wisdom, your strength, your example. So thank you, Mom. Thank you for dying once so you could live better the second time. Thank you for choosing us. Thank you for choosing yourself. I promise to carry your lessons forward, to set boundaries, to demand respect, to choose my path instead of accepting what's handed to me. You taught me that we're never powerless. And I'll never forget. Love always, Emma. She closed the journal and placed it in her own safe. A family heirloom to pass down to her children when they were old enough to understand. The story of a woman who died, came back and chose differently. The story of second chances and hard choices and the courage to change fate. The story of Claire Morrison, who refused to be destroyed twice. Epilogue. 20 years later. Emma's daughter Claire, named after her grandmother, was going through family albums when she found the journal. Mom, what's this? She asked, holding up the leather-bound book. Emma smiled. That's your grandmother's story. The real one. Can I read it? When you're older. When you're ready to understand that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is save yourself. What do you mean? Emma pulled her daughter close. Your grandmother taught me that love isn't about accepting everything someone does to you. It's about setting boundaries and demanding respect. It's about choosing who you want to be instead of accepting who others expect you to be. Grandma sounds cool. She was the coolest, and the strongest, and the bravest. Will you tell me about her? I'll tell you everything. About how she knew things she shouldn't have known. About how she saved our family by making hard choices. About how she turned betrayal into strength. How did she do that? Emma thought about her mother's journal. About the impossible story it told. About the truth beneath the impossibility. She learned that the past doesn't have to dictate the future. That you can know how a story is supposed to end and still choose to write it differently. Like changing fate? Exactly like that. Young Claire thought about this. I want to be like Grandma when I grow up. Then remember this, you're never powerless. You always have choices. And the bravest choice is usually the one that saves you first. Save yourself first? Always. Because you can't save anyone else if you're drowning. Emma looked at her mother's journal and thought about the two timelines. The one where Claire Morrison died at 40, destroyed and betrayed, and the one where she lived to 80, strong and at peace. All because she'd chosen differently. All because she'd saved herself first. And that legacy of strength, of boundaries, of choosing yourself, would live on through generations of women who learned that love wasn't about sacrifice. It was about respect. It was about choice. It was about refusing to drown twice. Incomplete story.